particularly with fruits and calories, they're very low in general, and in particular berries. Are you ever concerned with your like daily caloric intake, just only eating fruit meals?
I think about it all the time.
Well, I only ask because like, you know, working out like 4 times a week when I first started at the beginning of the year, I was eating, let's say, a berry meal, like a huge bowl full of berries with some sliced banana. And when you calculate it, it's like 350, 400 calories, not much. So I was eating 3 meals like that a day.
Right.
And I noticed that I was rapidly losing weight, like far more than what I've seen, which in the beginning it was fine. I was just like getting ripped and I thought it was my workout, but I didn't realize that like I was taking in so much less calories even though like I was feeling full and forcing more to try to keep my weight at balance. And so I was just wondering like how to work around that when you're active, where you don't want to overeat, but you feel like you need.
Did everyone get the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh?
So did you try eating more?
So I tried eating more, but it got to the point where like one meal I would overeat so much that I would feel kind of overly full, and I didn't like that feeling, and then it made me kind of like be annoyed at the fruit because I had to eat so much, and then by the time the next meal came, I was still full, but still had to force myself to eat.
Listen to your body.
So
Your
first
body
of all,
knows.
you're in a very different situation now. You will be when you're done here.
Okay.
What do you think is going to change?
The absorption.
Your body is going to function much better than it did before. It's going to be much more efficient. Okay? And if you're like most people that complete a fast, you're going to need far fewer calories. You're going to have a much easier time getting what you need.
Even
Now,
if
the
you're
truth
active?
is, I'm sorry?
Even if you're active?
Yeah. No matter if you're active or not active, you simply become more efficient. Okay? So you need far less than you would have needed before. And I can give, because he's right. I mean, he's right. Fruits are typically not very calorically dense, most fruits. So if you eat the same volume of food that you're used to eating, if you're eating normally before, you're going to be getting fewer calories now than you would have before. And what happens to most guys and some women is you lose weight quickly at the beginning, okay? And it freaks some people out, okay? But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It happens because your body is cleaning out all the garbage tissue that it doesn't want, and it's going to rebuild. I'll tell you my story. How do you know, some of you I know have had weight fluctuations. How do you know when you've gained or lost weight?
You can feel it in your clothes.
You can feel it in your clothes. How else?
See it on the skin.
You can see it on the scale. How else?
You can see it in your face.
Okay. What if you... Double chin. So I had a beard. Couldn't see much of my face. Had a big beard at the time. How else could you... What else would you see?
I lost muscle.
Could you see it in your body?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you need to do that? A mirror. Okay. So when I changed my diet, I had a little mirror that I shaved in. That was it. I had a beard. I did not own a scale. And because I had suffered from irritable bowel syndrome for 3 years, and my belly was always so uncomfortable, I had started buying pants and shorts that were way too big. I had buttons sewn in them, and I wore braces. They're like suspenders that button in. Their braces clip on. All my blue jeans, cutoffs, had buttons in them. I wore braces all the time. Okay? I had so much room I could easily stick my hands in my pants. All right? Without opening them. We won't talk about that. But the point is, I couldn't tell if I'd lost weight. My clothes didn't fit me differently. They were always too big. I didn't have a scale. I couldn't see my body in the mirror, and I couldn't see most of my face. So I changed my diet. I went 100% raw. My family started harassing me. Every time we get together, they're about how skinny I was, and how they were trying to get me to eat more. And I felt great. I felt great. And I really had no idea what my weight was. I knew when I started, I was around 165 pounds. One day I was at a friend's house, and he was married, which meant that the big, the good speakers, audio speakers, were in the basement because his wife didn't want them in the living room, right? So we're down in the basement listening to music. And I've got to go, and so we walk up the stairs, and I walk up in front of him. And he says, Loren, this is a guy I've known since I was like 12. He says, Loren, what happened to your ass? I said, what do you mean? He said, you don't have one. And so I went into his bathroom. There was a mirror, and I'm looking in the mirror, and there was a scale there. And I was like, oh, shit, he's right. I got on the scale. I was 128 pounds.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea. Okay? I felt great. But I didn't have any of the ways of seeing. And I knew, I was completely clear. I trusted my body. I felt better than I'd felt in years. And I thought, my body's going to take care of itself. I did not try to eat more food. I did not try to pack in calories. I simply surrendered to the process, and over the next year, my weight went back up to 150 pounds.
Just naturally?
Just naturally. My body became more efficient. It got rid of the garbage it didn't want, and it started rebuilding. And I didn't have to do anything to make that happen. It happened all by itself. Okay? And today, this is now 27 years later, I weigh the same amount. It's never fluctuated more than a couple pounds. I've never had to pay any attention to it. Okay? I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm satisfied. It doesn't matter. I don't have to exercise a bunch to lose weight. I exercise to stay strong and fit. But whether I do or not, my weight doesn't really fluctuate. Okay?
Do you still recommend the loose clothes thing? Because you wear really tight. Like you always have a belt now. So can't you feel if you've gained a couple pounds?
But I don't gain any weight. My weight stays the same.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. It doesn't really fluctuate. Having tight pants is now perfectly comfortable. It was uncomfortable before because I had this, constant discomfort, inflammation in my belly.
Mm.
Not for the last 27 years. That's not been an issue. So I could go back to wearing tight around my waist pants.
Even in nature, you look at cows, horses, camels, a lot of large animals. You see their skeletal structure, you see their rib cage, all their ribs.
Right.
They're perfectly healthy.
Right.
So part of it is an image thing. It's how you feel.
Exactly.
Now, if you're looking to layer on muscle for the visual effect, you're going to have to change your habits in order to do so.
Exactly. In fact, when you were speaking earlier, Ralph, I'm thinking to myself, the biggest thing needs to change is your attachment to being a particular way. And I was always very lean. In fact, some of you don't know this. I started studying nutrition at the age of 14, but I told you that, but I didn't tell you why before. Okay? The reason is very simple. In that year of my life, I grew 10 inches, 25 centimeters. Okay? Without putting on a pound. I grew really fast in that year without gaining a pound. Okay? I looked like a stick with a nose. Okay? And as you can imagine, hormones are kicking in at that age. I'm wanting the girls to find me attractive, and I look like a stick with a nose. And so I thought to myself, maybe if I start paying attention to, learn about nutrition, start eating better and paying attention to what I'm eating and working out, maybe I can build some muscle. I did. I put muscle on. I've stayed, it may not look like it to you. Remember that the average guy my age has 20 pounds or more of old hard waste in their body. I don't. Okay, I have very little body fat. What you see is mostly muscle. So I have as much muscle as almost every guy here. I know because I've looked at your files. When I look at your numbers, I'm like, I can see that. I've mentioned the guy last session. I've mentioned this before for those of you who were here earlier. This guy that was second time here, 373 pounds. I have more muscle mass than he does. Okay? I may not look very big, but I have a tiny frame. So I've got plenty of muscle for my body. Okay? What's right for me is different than what might be right for you. You've got a much bigger frame than I do. Okay? It's going to be different. But you're absolutely right. I mean, so much of where we think, people are like, I need to weigh this much weight. Like, really? What I would say to you is, here we measure your weight because it helps me to understand and explain to you what's happening and to see how you're doing. When you go home, my recommendation is you take your scale and you stick it in the back of a high shelf, in the back of the closet somewhere, okay, where it's really hard to get to, and then you forget about it. And you listen to your body. Who cares what you weigh? Okay? There was a time when I worked out a lot. I was much bigger. When I left the Air Force Academy, I was 172 pounds. I had a much bigger neck, I had a bigger chest and arms, and I felt like I was walking around with a burden. Because on my tiny frame, that didn't serve me. That was trying to meet some artificial standard. Well, this is what a guy should look like. Not my body. That's not natural for my body. If you want to create an unnaturally large body for your frame, you can do it, but you're going to have to overeat. If you get your body clean and then eat the diet that your body was intended for, and listen to your body, listen to its messages, you will achieve and maintain your optimal weight without ever having to think about it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's one less thing you have to worry about.
Totally.
Just simply eat to satisfaction.
Also, you know what?
Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied. That's all you need to do.
The thing is, like, I've been active since like I was a teenager and always had the same weight since I could remember. So like the plummet going so low was kind of like a little shock to me, and
Sure.
I thought something was wrong, or like,
Sure,
am I not eating enough? Am I eating, you know,
I understand.
just like a state of confusion, that like not realizing that like, oh wait, it's okay to actually be way less than what you normally are used to.
Well, think about, well, of course, some of you you're too young. You know, those of us who are a little older here can remember when I was a kid, on the playground. I went to a school where there were 300 or 400 children. We'd all have, you know, recess at the same time. We'd have all these kids out on the playground in the fields. Almost every kid was skinny. And I don't mean, you know, not overweight. I mean skinny. Kids are skinny. They used to be, not anymore. And by the way, it's not an accident that kids aren't skinny anymore. Okay? Not only do the food producers put chemicals in the food that make processed foods addictive, the drug manufacturers, okay, vaccines included, include chemicals that make people obese.